In this video, I want to cover the best party setups you can use in Throne and Liberty. As you know, there are 8 different types of weapons, all with 12 active skills and 7 passives. And scattered throughout all of them are particular abilities that can improve the effectiveness of your team, some more than others. And ultimately, I put together this list, which has all the buff and debuff skills that are going to, say, influence yourself and party members. The ones in yellow are pretty much just for boosting your raw damage. Green is like utility effects, so health regen, mana. And then the ones in blue, they're the defense orientated ones, so you'll reduce the damage that you and your party members take. And red is like the PvP orientated ones, the ones that say reduce the enemy's hit chance or crit hit, reduce the enemy's defense, reduce their healing received, reduce their stamina, all of which pretty much only really apply in PvP in most cases. In PvE, bosses generally don't have those defensive stats that would make any of these effects really apply. So what we can then do is create an ideal party for specific content based on all of these bonuses we need. A lot of players have the tendency to just say screw it and run whatever they want. That's just going to improve their own personal performance. And that, towards the later end of content, is going to come an issue. You're going to be ending up not being able to complete content because you're not supporting the team and you're not collectively being more effective. You'll notice this in the higher level of trials. We'll be getting 3-star dungeons, we'll be getting 3-star dimensional trials, and on from there we'll be getting 12-player raids. So it is really important that you're aware of these things and actually start making use of them, especially in PvE. And this is where I've put together a list right here of abilities that would say improve the raw damage output of yourself and your entire team based on those certain skills the weapons have. And let's quickly go through them. Your sword here, or aka your sword and shield or SNS, can run Stalwart Bastion, and you can change it to Righteous Fury. When this skill is at level 15, that's going to be a whopping 103 skill damage boost for you and your entire team. Then you have the Greatsword. You can simply run Da Vinci's Courage. This one gives your entire team 15% attack speed, even irrespective if you level it up or not. The Longbow has got pretty much the most game-changing bonus there is. Deadly Marker. This thing is just crazy. The initial effect doesn't look like much. It simply marks your target, and then anybody who attacks that target has an increase to their hit chance and their critical hit chance. But the most important effect is that every critical hit against the target who is marked decreases all skill cooldowns by 1% for the user and all party members. This skill is just insanely powerful. On top of the fact you can stack them. You can watch a clip right here. You check the boss's debuff bar. You can see here come all the deadly markers. This team has got like 4 bow players. Absolutely nuts the amount of deadly markers you get, and the amount of cooldown reduction is just game changing. It's absolutely crazy, and yeah, in my opinion, it's a little bit exploitive. I don't know if the devs are aware of that current situation that it can stack with itself, but it basically makes the Longbow a must-have weapon in PvE right now. You throw in Blitz on top of that, and you can refresh the ability, immediately casting it a second time. And then again, having a full party with, say, as many bows as possible just means you're stacking that up even further and getting even more and more amount of cooldown reduction. But let's move on. Some other weapons have decent bonuses too, like the Crossbow with its weak point shot. When maxed out, this thing gives a whopping 21% critical damage for you and your entire team. And if used in combination with a dagger, you can easily increase this duration to like 12-15 seconds. And when in a full team of bow users, nearly have the effect up indefinitely. It's just a little bit dependent on the boss you're facing. Basically, you need them to do a fury attack. You can see I used my weak point shot there. If we pause this, you can see the weak point shot debuff right there. Now everybody will then have that extra damage boost on all their critical hits. Now, as for the new mastery system, Crossbow will get another benefit: Bloodlust Transmission. This thing will allow you to potentially give you and your entire team 100 extra critical hit chance. However, it relies on successful basic attacks, which in a maxed out group, you probably won't actually be doing many with all the different skills you're actually going to be able to cast, especially with all that cooldown reduction. There just won't be any time to basic attack. But just keep in mind of it, and it could potentially trigger and be useful. But then we jump to the wand. This thing by far has the most buffs available, mainly because, yeah, it's a very support orientated weapon. It's got time for punishment, with then the specialization changing it to enchanting time. You can increase the skill damage boost of one player by a whopping 80 for 9 seconds. This, when upgraded, is now a massive 220 skill damage boost. That at base level is nearly 22% extra damage. On top of that, they can run Clay's Salvation with the specialization to turn it into Janus Rage, and this thing gives you and your entire team 6% extra base damage. This is probably one of the most impactful buffs for the entire group, because it doesn't matter what weapon you're using, your total amount of base damage is scaled up by 6%. But from there, we have another one player buff, which is Valorous Barrier. You're going to increase your allies' max damage by 92 for 6 seconds. But yes, you do strip it off all of the defensive buffs it would otherwise have. And that's just huge. Like, max damage again is just raw weapon damage. So Wand definitely has a ton going for it there, but the catch is you usually have to sacrifice heals. Valorous Barrier no longer has the defense support effect. Clay's Salvation will no longer have the heal effect, but you can still have it have the cleanse effect, which is actually pretty nice. And then you have the staff. You want to have that high focus with the specialization, so that it now affects your entire team, increasing cooldown speed by nearly 20% along with movement speed. Finally, you have the new spear, and it can simply boost everyone's heavy attack by a whopping 200. Now, all of these have different durations, different cooldowns, and that duration is going to vary based on buff duration, debuff duration, and the base cooldown is going to be significantly decreased if you're running a lot of cooldown reduction along with deadly markers in the group. So looking at all of this, we can add up everything, and then we can actually create an ideal group for, say, PvE. But this is ultimately it. This is the ideal setup. Yes, it's a lot of longbows. You want to have your tank on Sword and Shield Greatsword, giving that skill damage boost and attack speed. You then want a longbow and wand user. This is going to be the healer with all of those heal buffs, along with another deadly marker. And then your damage dealers, you're going to have one with the longbow and staff. That's deadly marker and like high focus. Another longbow and spear, deadly marker and sentinel's bastion with the heavy attack. And your fifth one is another longbow, but whatever you want. This is the only flexible spot right there. They still got to run a longbow, but the other weapons, whatever they choose. However, if you do want to min-max it a little bit further, you would go with another crossbow here, just to increase the amount of hits your entire party is actually dealing to the boss, which then triggers all of those deadly markers even more. Because again, the way that thing actually works is you have to land critical hits in order to reduce the skill cooldowns by 1% for the user and party members. And finally, I would take a crossbow and dagger users for that same effect, for the hit rate, and just because crossbow and dagger has the best kit here for maximum burst damage, taking advantage of all that cooldown reduction. You've got that lightning infusion with the thunderclad bombings. With the crazy amount of cooldown, you'll be spamming this non-stop and getting a ton of damage with like detonation mark. And again, all of those hits, because you're dealing a lot of little hits on top of all of the offhand activations, will just trigger deadly marker even more for everybody. Along with that, crossbow can provide the extra critical damage with weak point shots when used at the right time. Again, it has to be while the boss is doing a fury attack. That purple icon, whether it's a diamond or a circle, and with selfless diffusion and then dagger being able to output an absolute mad amount of hits per second, you're able to increase the duration of that weakened effect, as you can see at the end of the tooltip of this ability. But yeah, that's pretty much the ideal PvE composition that I would recommend you have in your static group. Even if you don't main a longbow, simply picking it up, slotting in Deadly Marker and Blitz is already a massive boost to your team. You don't necessarily have to level up Blitz or Deadly Marker for them to still do their thing. The only benefit you gain by upgrading your Deadly Marker here is going to be that critical hit chance boost and the hit chance boost. And for Blitz, it's just going to be a little bit of extra cooldown reduction, which is great, but not a must-have. So again, that's ultimately the full list of the different buffs you can make use of. You can theory craft your own, say, PvP setups based on this. You can create death squads, getting all those buffs like a PvP composition here, buffing the hell out of one of the bombers with, say, Valorous Barrier and Enchanting Time, using all the rest of the buffs too. And that's pretty much what you're going to have to do with, say, the Cordy Spinners in the Tier 2 update. Because basically, Crossbow is still not going to be that great in terms of spinning and killing people with Merciless Barrage, that Annihilation Barrage shot. It needs an extra bit of oomph, and these buffs can give it. If we actually look at a breakdown of how much extra damage you're gaining, that one crossbow and dagger player in your team getting those special buffs from the wand and then all the rest from the group is a whopping 72% extra overall damage gain. This again being average with some assumptions here and there, but yeah, it's very substantial. And for the entire group, they also gain like over a 35% damage boost just by running this composition with those particular abilities. There is of course some content where you might want to run more survivability, particularly with Sword and Shield and your Stalwart Bastion. Sometimes you actually want to run it as Stalwart Bastion, whether that's for your own survivability or to just give that buff to the entire team so they can survive a certain mechanic. If you're familiar with the Torture Chamber of Screams, some people may need Stalwart Bastion's damage reduction in order to survive, say, the spinning mech when he puts those red circles on everybody and just hits you for a ton of little hits, which would otherwise kill you if you didn't have the damage reduction. But yes, that's it for now. Just be aware of these buffs, that they exist, and if you play one of those weapons, consider actually using those buffs, especially in PvE when content's a bit easier. You're boosting up yourself and the other 5 players, and it will ultimately be far more effective than a little bit of extra effect a different skill could give you, or a small bit of damage reduction or heals. So that's it for now. Thanks all for watching, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.